listeners. Well, welcome to another week of Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara, presented by TCS. We're back. Got so much to talk about. Welcome, Kara. Let's chop it up.
Thanks, Des. Well, anyone that's watching on our YouTube channel is going to be asking about your hand. And I know you probably don't want to talk about it the whole episode, but we have to know what happened.
Yeah, it's being elevated right now. I'm not just being weird, like, look at me, I'm hurt. So, like, I'm just keeping it high and getting swelling to come down. So actually, we were on a call. I won't say what we were doing, but we were on a call a couple weeks ago or last week. Hopped off, had extra time last Friday of downtime, and I was like, we're going to go fishing. We got nice weather. It was a little breezy. Took the fishing boat out. We were launching it. Done it 100 times and 1,000 times. My job is to hold the rope that is attached to the boat and then make sure it doesn't like bump all over the place and crash around. And it was breezy out there. Ryan's job is to put it in the water, get it off the trailer, and then drive the truck out, park, and then meet me. We hop on the boat, take off, go fishing. So there's a little loop on the end, which is new of this rope, and I'm holding it by that. And Ryan starts pulling the truck out. Again, I mentioned it was choppy because I think this is where everything went wrong. The boat stuck a little bit, so I tugged to try to make sure it's in the water. It was not in the water. It was still attached to the trailer, being driven out by a truck, and caught my thumb on the loop, and I threw the rope immediately because it was apparent that it was tug of war with a truck and a boat, and I was going to lose that battle. So I threw the rope, looked down at my hand and was like, oh, that's going to need stitches. I actually looked at this outside part right here. I was like, oh, that's going to need a stitch for sure. Walked out to get Ryan. He's like, what's up? What's happening? And then there was blood coming down from the inside, and I peeked at my hand on the inside and then immediately like shut it down with my other hand and was like, this is actually an emergency. Get the boat on the trailer. We have to go ASAP.
Okay,
And,
for someone who also drops a boat into the water with their husband, was the boat now in the water? Like, did it come off the trailer as he pulled away?
It was like a quarter of the way on. So like my hand's dripping blood and he's like, okay, I actually have to get the boat back on the trailer. And I'm like, hurry up. This is like an emergency. And then he's like wrestling with it. And I'm like, I'm just going to go sit in the truck. And if it takes longer than 4 minutes, I'm going to call the ambulance. But it was kind of a dumb, I just did that to put pressure on Ryan because he's very slow at most things. Like he's just a patient dude. And we were actually probably under a mile to the ER. So it was.
So you drove straight there with your boat?
Yeah. Well, we actually, he pulled the trailer out, dropped the trailer off in the parking lot. It was like just attached the trailer and then we left.
Okay. I need to this story is terrifying to me because this could happen to me all the time.
For sure.
But and that's the thing with boats. Like sometimes it comes down quick or the handle goes. Like my sister almost lost her arm, like going to reach for it. And I was like, don't touch that. You'll lose your arm. But I feel like we were just sort of skipping over a little bit, like how serious this is. Like, okay, you're driving to the ER. Are you thinking, I'm going to lose my thumb?
Yeah, a little bit. I was like, I didn't think I would lose my thumb. I thought maybe I could. And it stopped bleeding on the way over. So I was like, okay, that's a good sign. And once we were on the way, I was like, it's fine. Like my biggest fear was that Ryan would see the blood because he's very squeamish and like pass out and we would never get there.
Poor Ryan, he looks like a real hero in this story.
No, he really was because he like kept it together. But like I thought I was pretty cool about it too. Like he was like, you never even yelled, like you never like screamed or anything. And then I got in there and I was like, the pain level was like a 4.
What?
It was so clean and it was so quick, and then it didn't hit any nerves or tendons. So like that's the fine line between like when I look at it, I'm like, well, shit, my thumb almost got like lopped off, but then also like, well, not really because it didn't even get to the tendons or it's like, I don't know.
I feel like you're downplaying this so much. Okay, so I see this thing on your hand and it's all around your hand, but is that to support the thumb? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
where are your stitches around the
Do
thumb,
you want to
basically?
do you want to see the
Yeah, I
stitches?
do. I
Okay.
really do.
I'm going to show you I'll show you the photo, and this is where people really should hop on the YouTube, and we'll see if they come up, but I'll text them to you too. People have mixed feelings about like seeing them, but I'm like, you should see these. Let's see if we can get it
Holy
without the
crap.
glare.
That's not just your thumb. That's like a
That's like
huge
the
part
palm.
of your hand. The palm of her hand is stitched up.
And then wait, that's the other side.
Oh,
So like when you think about the loop being like that's almost your thumb gone, but no nerves or tendons, which
that's
is
amazing.
pretty wild.
And what about right
And
now? Are you in pain right now?
no, I'm taking ibuprofen. Like they gave me like 800 milligrams. I'm like, that's insanity. So I take the first night we didn't have any, so I just didn't take any, and it was like kind of throbby. And then I started taking 200, no 400, 3 times a day.
I
So
cannot believe you didn't take anything the first night.
we just didn't have any. Like they're like, don't use whatever like the other ones. I don't know the difference between the medicines. I'm like, I just can't use it.
You're
So
amazing.
no, it's actually and also we did talk about this just before we started. I was not drinking, by the way. Like
She
this
was
wasn't
not.
like stumbling on the dock. What a dipshit. Like I am a dipshit, but it wasn't a drunk dipshit move. It was just like shit luck too.
Actually, I think the saddest part of the story is that you've held onto a White Claw for an extended period of time, and you were finally going to let yourself have this White Claw.
That was the
And so,
moment.
have you had it yet?
No, it's in the boat. No, I sent my Ryan's cousin went out and got me a bunch of sour beers.
Oh,
So I was like,
nice.
wow, those are better than White Claw.
I need
Anyhow.
a picture when you finally drink your White Claw. I
All
need a
right.
picture of it finally happening.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad you're okay. How long do you have the stitches for?
This was put on yesterday, and then it'll be for like this new little wrap thing, which does show my fingers, and they're kind of fat, so I call them finger cleavage because they're it's like the most cleavage I've ever had.
Solid does.
This low cut number right here. So I'm feeling saucy, but I'll have that dress on for 2 weeks, and then get to show the whole thing eventually, and have a cool scar probably with the story.
That's a good scar. It's going to be a great scar.
Yeah.
Ugh. Well, I'm glad you're okay. That's scary. I mean, you're not okay, but I'm glad that it was the best of what could have been really, really bad.
Same. I agree with that.
Oof.
What's new with you? Give me a good story.
Talking about kind of gross stuff, I had my knee drained yesterday.
Oh, fun.
I'll send you the video later. It was really gross. She got so much out, and then Adam had to go with me because unlike you, I did take drugs because I've thrown up the last few times I've had this procedure done. So I was on Valium, so I couldn't drive myself.
Oh, that's right. We were going to try to do this pod right after. I was like, let's go. Like,
no. Wouldn't have been great. And then I had my knee injected with joint fluid. So today it doesn't feel amazing, but I'm excited to get some relief because my knee's been really bugging me. So I have bone on bone. And in 2016, I had surgery for a torn meniscus. And my doctor was like, oh my gosh, you need a knee replacement. I was like, what? I almost made an Olympic team like 4 months ago. How could I?
That's wild.
Yeah, need a knee replacement. So I did like a stem cell transplant. I took 5 months off, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I had it rescanned 2 years ago, and it had been like a quarter size. Now it's even bigger. It's just gotten worse. But I've been able to manage it by it's always swollen, so I'll get it drained a few times a year and then this injection once a year. But I hadn't gone in well over a year because the last time was traumatizing and I threw up and stuff. So anyway, that's my news is that I got my tune-up, and it takes about 3 weeks for everything to kick in, but I'm very excited about how it will feel, and it won't hurt me as much anymore.
That's great. And I think we have like kind of shared news that maybe you don't know about, but you're going back to Duluth soon, correct? Will you be able to get some running in out there, or is it going to be too soon?
No, I think I'll be able to. I actually leave tomorrow, and I'm supposed to take a few days off, but I already ran today.
Of course.
But I did do a short run today. There's no way I can be in Duluth and not run, right? It's like all my favorite trails. And so I will definitely be running when I'm there. I just won't run that far. I'll just run like 3 to 5 miles.
Seems reasonable.
It is reasonable.
My shared news is that I'm going to San Diego, so that's like homecomings, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Are you excited?
It'll be fun. I'm excited to see my sister. I don't like. I'm not going to go to the beach. I can't like surf.
When you go home like that, like there's some things that I have to do while I'm there. Do you have anything like that? Like you have to go run somewhere, eat a meal somewhere, anything like that?
um, the spot. I mean, it's always kind of changing, but like I spend the most time with my sister, and they live by this really great seafood place. It's like fresh catch stuff and pescador, so I have to go there. And then it's Padre season, so we'll go to a game or two for sure.
Oh, good.
That's become the tradition.
That sounds like a good tradition.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Good.
Yeah.
This is good.
Cool. So that's great. We've caught up on a lot of stuff. Anything else you want to dig into before we go backwards for current events? Now we're going to talk about past events.
No, I think we should go back in time and talk about Boston. So actually, you're leading this podcast, but I'm jumping in here.
Okay.
It's been 2 weeks. How has the recovery been? How are you feeling? Obviously, maybe your hand is affecting what you would normally be doing right now, but how do you feel body-wise?
Yeah, great. I've never come off of Boston and felt that fresh that quickly, which is pretty wild. Products are great now, which is a good thing. And then I dropped my mileage significantly heading into this race. So I think I got up to 105. And that would probably, my coach would still be like, too much. But he let it slide. So 95 was kind of like the sweet spot for the build, which is crazy. And I was like, I don't even know if I can get to the end. Like, is that enough mileage so I can finish the race? So you'll be fine. You've done this enough. But I think that helped a lot in the recovery as well, like coming off of that. So I'm in a good spot, and I would start running today. It's been 2 weeks since the race, and I was on the phone with him yesterday, and I was like, well, I had this thing with my hand, so I'm going to take a little bit longer. And he's not like a social media guy. He doesn't follow any of that. And he's like,
your hand.
Okay. Yeah, like, okay. And then he talked to his wife later, and she was like, why didn't you ask more questions? Because she is a little more in tune with social. And he like messaged me back. He's like, I need some more information. And then I sent him the pictures because he was like, yeah, I want to see it.
He thought you just like jammed your finger playing basketball.
Right, totally. Drinking White Claws. So then he was like, yeah, that's probably smart to wait for the swelling to come down a little bit.
Okay, here's a random question.
Always go for it.
Like, are you a person that's like, so I need to do something else, I'm going to hop on the bike instead? Or are you just like, no, I'm going to let my hand heal and I'll run when I'm ready?
I'm going to let my hand heal and run when I'm ready. And I thought about that. And I'm also like, what kind of fitness am I going to build? Like we're already kind of pretty low in the fitness realm right now. So like, what's another week? But I was telling Ryan, and everyone's like, don't do anything stupid. Don't try to be a hero. I'm like, dude, I'll recover better than anyone. And I understand what the priority is right now. And I value the use of my thumb and my hand long term far more than an extra week of fitness for the fall. So that'll be the priority right now, which, I think is the right move long term.
That is definitely the right move. You want to have that thumb.
Yeah.
I was texting with someone about it and they were like, well, do you really need a thumb? And I was like, yes, you really need a thumb. And it's on her dominant hand. So like she needs this thumb.
Yeah. Ask any animal that really set them apart. And like I've been I'm supposed to do a book signing or whatever. And like, we live in such a small town. So I went into the ER and the girl was like, oh, is that your thing in Petoskey yesterday? And I was like, good thing I signed that book yesterday. And I've been trying to practice with my left hand, like on the iPad with one of those crayons. I'm like, oh, I'll get this down. And then I went to the specialist yesterday for an appointment, and it does not convert to paper at all. It looked like a little child scribbled their name on them. I'm like, Ryan, fill it out for me, please. He's
no
like,
way. Look, that's limited edition.
Yeah.
A Des Linden left-hand signature. That's like worth more.
Yeah.
Probably.
Any child could sign it. And you could probably pass. There's no verification on that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, tell us about the marathon because let's just talk about the marathon.
Yeah, let's do that. So, what did you think of it?
I
I
thought it was
jumped in.
awesome. No,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be leading this anyway. I thought it was so great. What I was excited about was I feel sometimes like the elites ditch Boston because they know they're not going to produce a super fast time, and they also know that it is a very complicated course. As you know, the more you run it, the more you learn it. There's things you're always learning about it, and I have always kind of felt like it's one of the majors, but it doesn't pull the same, that elite status as deep as it
Mhm.
as like a London. But I was excited that I felt like this was a legit field and it had so many really good people. And I just thought this was huge for Boston in general to have this incredible field. And I was excited to watch it and see what happened. I was supposed to have jury duty the morning of
That's
Boston. That's
terrible.
actually why I came home. And then the night before I found out I didn't have to go. So I was able to watch it, which was amazing. So I watched it on TV. So I wasn't there, but I thought it was really, really cool to see such a deep field. But it did make me think about when I was a competitor, it would have made me be like, wow, this is a really, really deep field. So what was it like for you to race a field like that?
Did you ever look at the list beforehand and study them, or did you just go like, we'll see when we get there?
Yeah, I kind of looked at it when I was
Yeah.
racing.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I would just
Yeah.
be like, I'm gonna win. I'm just gonna sit back. Whoever's leading. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
wear a watch or anything. I got better as I got further in my career of being like, wait, I can't just keep running everyone else's race. I need to run mine. But definitely no, not at first. I just would jump in anything and be like, Paula, who cares? Let's go.
Right. That's great. I think that that's a really cool mentality, and I think it's interesting that you're seeing some of that, and then there's like for me, I started to look at this field and I scrolled and I was like, okay, sub 220. And I scrolled a little more and I was like, okay, sub 220. And I scrolled and I was like, okay, I'm not going to look at the rest of this field. And so I stopped and I was just like, get as fit as I can. But I knew that I could have a really good race and be like out of the top 15. Or I thought, actually, I was like, maybe I'm top 15 if I have a really good race. And it still could be a good day, but you're like, 15th. And that would be something that you'd have to be okay with. And I was 18th, and I thought I had a pretty solid day. Like it was good. I think I left a lot of time on the table, made some mistakes, but 18th and 227, But yeah, I mean, as far as the field goes and Boston in general, both sides, men and women, like it was so exciting. And it was like you could, roll the dice and who knows who was going to win that race. So it was really compelling racing, which is cool. And the time still happened. Like they were still pretty quick on the women's side. It wasn't crazy. Like you're, you know, not setting the world record or getting the tailwind or whatever, but they're legit. And then
Mhm.
you factor in the racing as well. Like I thought it was a fun day. And you could feel that energy being in the city. It was like this one just felt different.
I do feel like the lead up, it was so crazy in the city, but in a good way. I was like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember it ever feeling this electric. I don't remember this much like hype around it. And granted, when I was an elite, especially when I was at the Oregon
Yeah.
Project, I like hid alone by
Tucked
myself and
away,
didn't talk to
right?
anyone. But it just felt like there was so much excitement. But I have to go back to you because I cannot believe you ran 227. I cannot
Yeah.
believe that with the buildup, all of the press you were doing. I mean, you're an introvert and you were going day after day and like hanging out with people and being awesome as you are, but they had to be stealing some energy. And I was just like, man, I hope does okay. And then I'm like, she's on 227 pace. How is she doing this? 227 is legit at Boston. I don't care, most years you would have been fighting for the top 3 if not the top 5, right? Like that's a good time. So how did you do that?
It was great because you're right. I am an introvert. So really all I was looking forward to was racing. I was like, I will have 2.5 hours to myself where I don't have to engage. This is the moment I've been waiting for. Um, no, I mean, I was pretty fit going in, and I honestly thought I was like 224 shape. And then like the week before with the book tour is you just know that that's going to be taxing and factor that in. And then it's Boston. Like you have to bring more to the table for your sponsors. I think that's an interesting thing. It's like it's the biggest, most important. There's 2 days on your calendar that are big and important for your race schedule if you're a marathoner, right? Spring and fall. And then brands are like, well, these are the most important for us too. So before you do that thing, you need to bring it at this other thing. And then you factor in all your brands and you're like, oh, like I'm actually pretty swamped. So I think that's a place where just experience in general is super helpful for me. Like I've done it. I know how to calculate it, and then I know when to shut it down and just be like, okay, everyone, leave me the f alone. So
Yeah.
I thought I managed it. Like it's pulling all that experience and managing it.
And what did you think about the top 5? Like, were those the women that you expected to be up there? Were you shocked by anything?
I mean, the standout for me was Emma Bates. Like that was the most exciting thing afterwards. Like just seeing how she raced and like again, I don't know if she looks at the field or not, but you see her pre-race stuff and she's like, yeah, I'm in it to win it. Like I'm going to go and make some stuff happen. And I think people will call that a breakthrough for her, but I think she's going to have something more special down the line. You know, I think that
Mhm.
she's just learning to believe in what she's put together. And then we've also seen her make really smart, calculated decisions, like in a Chicago or their World Championships, where it's like I can't do what the front is doing, so I'm going to get everything out of myself on the day by doing exactly what I need to do. So you put that tactic, and then now she goes like, I can mix it up front, I can lead, I can sit back, and like she's going to become very dangerous very quickly. So that was a highlight for me. I liked how Connor Mantz raced as well. You know, he's just getting his feet wet in the distance, and that was like, I'm here to go for broke. I'm gonna mix it up with the big boys. I don't care. And he held it pretty late in the game. So take more calculated risks, get more experience. He'll be on podiums, I think.
Uh,
And Fauble, I think Scott Fauble, like he didn't wow me because I expect that from Scott Fauble, right? He was exactly where he should be, and that's exactly what you expect for him from him. And he's become Mr. Consistent, and that's like you keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that, and then if it breaks the right way, you're in position to break through.
yeah, I
So
agree. I was
American centric.
Yeah, I was impressed with Connor Mantz too because I said, yeah, maybe he made some Boston rookie mistakes, but I liked that he wasn't going to be intimidated. Like it shows me that he's thinking big time long term, right? Like he wants to win a major and he's showing that right away. And I was impressed that he held it together. It would have been really easy for him to drop out over that last 10K because I mean he was spent, but he kept going. And you know what I would love? Scott Fauble knows Boston. He's so good at it. I want him to go with that pack next time. I just want him to take a risk, because I think he might surprise himself. But it was cool to see him moving so fast. Like on Boylston,
Yeah.
he was out kicking people. It was pretty crazy. It was cool to see. But what did you think of Kipchoge?
I'm I kind of loved it. Sorry. I know that that's not like what people want to hear, but like Boston's going to chew you up. It's whether or not it's going to spit you out. And I've said that a bunch of times prior to the race. And, you know, he didn't get on the course and run it. He said he trained the exact same way. And I feel like the marathon changed so much, and there's like no more respect the distance. You can do a Kosgei type race where you go out insanely fast the first half and still like not die on the course, like not literally die on the course. Like you could finish and be alive, and still get pretty close to the world record. And it's crazy. And there's all these things changing, but it was cool to see Boston still be Boston. And, you know, I think that you can still say things like respect the course. And he still ran great. And like he could have just stepped off and like, yeah, I'm good here. Like, whatever. And he's still the greatest of all time. It doesn't take away from that. But it was cool to see um, just a battle between the greatest and a really, really tough course. It's a reminder that it's hard.
It is hard and that he's human, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this was my hot take after, so I can't wait to hear what
Yeah.
you think about it. With Chris, our editor, argued with him that maybe Kipchoge is the GOAT of the men's. But if we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the overall GOAT, I feel like the overall GOAT can handle any course. So I was putting forward Paula Radcliffe as the overall marathon GOAT because she won London, she won Chicago, she won New York 3 times. She won a world championship. I know she didn't win an Olympic gold or an Olympic medal. I know that. But I was just saying, like, and her world record was so out of reach for so long. So I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I like that. I think that's totally fair. I mean, was she dominant? Like, I feel like she was in her time. Like, when she lined up, it's like, okay, we're just going to kind of concede, and then whatever happens for second happens for second. And maybe we're just a little too far away from that peak to really remember that she was like the one. But
Yeah.
you're right. Doing it on all the courses is very, very different.
And this is not a Kipchoge slam, by the way. I love him. I love following him. I think he's amazing. But I was just like, I was feeling like a little spicy. And I was like, well, I'm not really sure anymore. Shouldn't the GOAT be able to run the marathon at any type of course? And now he'll prove me wrong and win New York or something, which would be awesome, though.
I hope so. Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, any thoughts, any closing thoughts on Boston? You can keep going on it too, if it comes back up later. But
yeah, I mean, basically, I just was super excited as someone who loves Boston so much. I was super excited to see just how deep the fields were on the men's and women's side. I mean, I know that you left time on the table, but the fact that you ran 2:27 and you were 18th, I'm like, that's crazy. And it's kind of awesome. It's kind of awesome that we're getting all this. It's becoming more respected, or I think. I don't know what the right words are, but you and I have always realized how hard it is and how you can't just go in there willy-nilly. And it's kind of cool and I think that for some people that scared them away from it, but it's cool for me to see people kind of starting to embrace it and come and challenge themselves in that way.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's very true. Okay, one more. I guess I'm going to throw one more Boston thing at you because this will help us bump into the next thing. Obiri, second marathon, sort of training for it prior, but like late ad, had a phenomenal half and then translate it in her second marathon for the win. How'd you feel about that? Does it surprise you? Do you think that was like a full marathon build and then we just didn't know about it?
Yes.
Or yeah,
that's what I think.
That.
I think that she had a full marathon build. I think she maybe had her eyes set on London. But she's been training in Boulder, which is not flat. And it's kind of funny. Paul Swangard the night before was like, who's your pick? And I was like, Obiri. And he was like, what about this person? She ran 2:14. What about this person? And I said, Obiri's only run one and she faltered, but it was in New York and she's hungry and she's going to learn how to wait. And I was right. I should have been on the call. But I don't think that I think that she was training for a marathon. I think that her heart was sort of set on London. And granted, this is me just inferring in interviews, but I think that Dathan kind of pushed her to do Boston instead. But I don't think she just was like, you know what, maybe I will run a marathon. I think her training had been going very, very well. But that's just my thoughts. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was probably I think they tend to do a lot of volume anyhow, it seems like. And, that's easy to translate over. But I think her New York half probably was a good indicator, like you're ready for a tough course. So that probably was a huge help. But I think, and this is my segue to London, I think it's interesting in how these really specific half marathon 10K track folks are just translating to the marathon super well. And we saw that a ton in London, and just how fast they can go. And Hassan's debut was crazy wild. And, I think we think of her as a trackster. And sometimes there's like the learning curve, and that seems to have disappeared. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. I feel like the game has changed, especially on these flatter courses. We're seeing people make pretty flawless transitions where even Gebrselassie, it took him a couple before he got it right? And now we're seeing people just move over kind of flawlessly. I don't even know what to make of Hassan's London win because it was so it was like a movie. Like she's stopping, she's stretching her quad, she's grimacing, she's in pain, she falls back, then like towards the end, she almost gets taken out by a motorcycle because she's like running to get her liquid. I mean, it was just, I was watching it and it was like, oh, well, that's what happens. Like, you got to respect the distance. And people on the, I think it was Paula, was like, she should really think about just dropping out. You don't want to do further injury. Then fast forward an hour and she wins.
Yeah.
It was bonkers.
I had a friend reach out and she said, I felt like I was watching a broken plate put itself back together.
That's
I
a
was
perfect
like,
analogy.
oh my God, that's perfect. Like, this is what happened. This is fucking magic. Like,
that is exactly it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see how it came down to this kick, right? It came down to a few women and then they were kicking. And all I could think was like, God, that'd be so hard. After running all that way at like a super hard pace, at 2:18 pace, then to be like, well, it's time to kick. If you really want this, you're going to kick.
Time to dig deep.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's changed? Like, I feel like in the past it was, we would always laugh, like commentators being like, well, now it's like down to the track speed and who's got the biggest kick. And like, as a marathoner who's been there, you're like, no, that's like, your kick after 20 miles or 26 miles rather is significantly, like, leg speed's not it anymore. It's strength. Like, how much strength do you have left? But it sort of feels like that matters now. And it was like, well, the 1500 meter woman, I mean, what's her 800 meter PR? It's crazy fast too. Like, would you as a commentator defer to that now, or would you still be like, nah, strength?
Well, before the last 2 weekends, I would have been like, no. Yeah. But Obiri kicked away. Yeah. And, she's the 10,000 meter or 5,000 meter world champion. Not this past year, but she has won it. And she's Olympic silver medalist in the 5,000. And she kicked away. Like, she went to she has very unique form, but she went to the arms. You could physically see the change. Yeah. And then that's exactly what Hassan did. She went from like tight and compacted to opening up. So when people used to say that, I'd like roll my eyes and I'd be like, one doesn't translate. But now I'm like, well, maybe it does now. I don't know.
If you were coaching, would you shift how you coached to a more speed perspective, or like, hey, this is almost like we got to do half marathon training, 30K training, or is like 135 a week, let's get tired and get really good at running tired. Do you think there needs to be a shift there?
Yeah, I don't know that I would run 135 anymore. Yeah. I mean, I loved that, by the way. Yeah. I love training that much. I'm like a mileage junkie. It's like, that's how I get high, but I'm not sure that you need it anymore. It's just different. And you do need more sharpness. I'm definitely not a coach, but I think that you do need to work on that speed stuff, especially in these flatter courses. 5 minutes, if you're going to be running 5:15s, then that has to feel easy. Right. So that means you have to be able to run in the 440s and mile repeats so that the 5:15s sustained feels easy. And now we're talking about speed work, right?
Right.
And now we're talking about speed work. So I think it depends on the athlete, but yeah, I don't think you need the 135. I mean, everyone's different. But I don't think you need that big, heavy mileage anymore. I think you need to just have a lot more versatility, which I'm glad I'm out.
No, you always had the chops. Didn't you win a Millrose indoor mile?
I did twice.
Yeah,
thanks.
Great. Not once, twice. Yeah. So
okay, let's talk about this men's race, though.
All right, go for it.
Well, no, you tell me.
Which one? The London? I honestly, I didn't
Kelvin
focus
Kipton.
on them.
In his second marathon, he ran 2:01:25, and he was just a little bit off the world record in his second marathon ever.
Yeah, I think new heir to the throne, maybe, or just a huge shift in what people think is possible, and so like we're going to see 201 guys, every other weekend in the spring and the fall. Like I do think there's a big mental shift of what is possible, and that's such a big part of it. But for now, I'm like jaw on the ground.
Yeah. What do you think? Like the American men, I always think about the American men. The American women seem to be mixing it up a little bit more on that international stage. They're running great. They're running 2:08, 2:09. I mean, you're still marathoning. So what do you have to do to make that mental shift to be like, okay, if I really want to win a major, I really want to stand on the podium, I'm looking at minutes that I have to find.
I think that's a great question, and I don't know if we've talked about this on here before or just maybe off air, but like when we first got into the group training and like the whole thing, it was like, and Alberto and the Hansons kind of had the same story popping up at the same time. It was like, we watched the Boston Marathon and we saw everyone celebrating the American man getting ninth, and they're like, oh yeah, this is amazing. And they do all this work and we're going to save US distance running, and we have some people competing, but the bar shifted again, and like we can't celebrate sub 210, that ain't it. And so the mentality has to be place over time.
Mm.
And like I mean, that's why I think I love what Connor Mantz did so much. It was like, I don't care what the clock says, this is the group I need to be with, and this is how I get myself in the top 5 or maybe on the podium and eventually win. And that's the right mentality, because if we celebrate sub 210s, then we're going back to the reason we started the groups, to save US distance running in the beginning. Like, well, that's ninth, 10th, 15th, whatever it is. So
Right.
that shift has to go to place, and then whatever time is there on the clock, like that's secondary.
Yeah. It's been interesting to watch because you won a major, Shalane won a major, obviously Dina won a bunch of she won a few majors. And then obviously Meb won a couple majors, but it feels like we have a lot of good talent on the men's side in the US, a lot, but we just haven't seen it translate to podium finishes yet, but it's coming. It's got to be coming. But I just feel like it's got to be hard to run so well and run 208. And then you see this guy in his second marathon run 201.
It's also a depth thing too. Like there's just so many more men, and I think we got a little taste of that on the women's side in Boston this year, where you're like 227 was 18th, like F, like
Right.
So you're seeing depth fill in on the women's side, but the American women are just responding. It's like, well, we belong here. We've seen it happen, and we have the examples. So I think that helps some as well.
Yeah. And to be fair, the American record's 218 something and the world record is 214. So I guess if I'm just pulling out like world record times, the women, quote unquote, have a long way to go, even though I think that we're doing great. But yeah, I don't know. For some reason, it feels like the women are able to mix it up more on the American side. But I don't know. I think there's some exciting people coming up. Connor Mantz, I just feel like he's the real deal. So we'll see what happens. And Scott Fauble, if I feel like he is so strong now. We know he's strong. We know he's solid. And now I just want to see him risk something. Just risk it and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think watching Emma have that success and stick her neck out, and like it didn't fall apart and blow up, and like they're doing the same stuff. Yeah, they're not training together. But they're on the same program. And like you have another example to take the risk. Like, okay, like this has worked before. So it's not even as big of a risk as like just being the first guy to try it out of the program. Right.
Right. Yeah,
so,
you're right.
Who knows? We'll see.
Should
All right.
we move on?
Well, yeah, we should move on. I don't really have too much, but I feel like we're on downtime right now, or I'm on downtime. And so I just thought it would be interesting to hear your like bulk training week versus your downtime week and stuff that you did different. And I do stuff differently too. And just sort of talk about like what did when you were done with a major marathon, what did your break look like? Did you go worry about the next training? Like, did you get a break? I feel like your system was very like
No, not
structured and
really.
like hovery.
The first marathon I ran was New York, and I cramped at the end of it, like in my back, in my hamstrings, and my calves. And I did take 2 weeks completely off because I left the country and went to Mexico.
That's the trick.
And then when I came back, though, everything still hurt. My back, hamstrings, like the same way that they had when I started running. And yeah, Alberta was just like, that's because you took time off. So that kind of like stuck in my head. And I never really took time off ever again.
So what did it look like? Like,
sure that was the best choice.
What would you do after a marathon? First couple days after, and then when did you get right back into running again?
Just easy jogging, just a few miles. I felt like I recovered better if I would get out and just run a few miles. It was always like, well, just take 2 weeks. And when you come back, you come back. But typically it was like within a week, it was like, hey, are you going to be coming around? I remember after the Olympics in 2012, I was fried. I do feel like I overtrained. I'm not blaming anyone. We were trying to make magic happen. And so we went for it. And I remember Jerry said, just disappear for 2 weeks and come back around. And it had only been like 10 days. And I go to the Nike campus to take Holt swimming, and I saw Shalane out doing repeats on the grass. And I was like, what the hell? So I like went outside. I was like, wait, are we back to training? Right. And the next thing you know, then 2 days later, I was doing a tempo run and quarter milers. And that's where I feel like it is on the coach to be like, no, you're not welcome here yet. You can run, but maybe I shouldn't have jumped in. But like, that's sort of my personality, was like, I'll just jump in. Yeah. I don't want anyone else getting a step on me. So I typically would travel during my break and see my family, but I would run throughout my break. Like after the first couple of days, usually an hour to 80 minutes a day. And I'm not saying this is like the right thing to do. I'm just being honest. That's what I did.
No, totally. Would you like miss it? Like, oh, I miss the act of running, or was it more like I might be getting behind?
Yeah, it's totally neurosis. Like I can't give anybody like Des is already back because she didn't race because she was injured, so she's already training, and so yeah, no, it was just complete mental for me. I mean, I never really, the biggest break I took in running was after that knee surgery I was talking about earlier in 2016, where I had to, because I did this stem cell thing and it takes months for it to work and you cannot pound it. Mm-hmm. And that was the most miserable 3 months of my life since I started running.
Just like worrying about other people, or because you couldn't run?
Not so much about worrying other people, because I was definitely on the backside of my career, but just the fact that I couldn't run. I remember when I started running, I would go over to CU and just jog lightly on the indoor track. And I remember coming back the first day and Adam and Colt being like, was it good? Are you happy now?
Are you happy now?
Like, are you going to be nice again? Yeah. I think I am, I joke, but I really am addicted to running. But I don't think I'm addicted to it in a bad way. It could get out of control when I was competing. I just really love it. And when I don't do it, I don't feel like myself. But I feel like I'm painting a very bad picture of what you should do. So I'm curious about your recovery process.
No, I think runners are I think we're addicts in a weird way. And I think we're extreme. Let's go. Yeah. Because I'm like the opposite, where I'm like, I'm going to plan a vacation. I'm going to leave my shoes at home. I'm going to drink too much every night. We were recording a thing earlier and I had like a can of like Cheetos, like in the cheese puff things in the can. And I was just sort of like dipping, like eating out of that. And then I had a candy bar, and then I have the White Claw that I'm eventually going to have. Like, it's disgusting. And I'm like, I can do all this stuff now, which like I can't, but I'm like, it's only 2 weeks. And then I get insanely out of shape. I don't run at all. I kind of miss sweating right now. I just want to sweat because there's probably like toxins that need to be pushed out. Like, I take a hot shower so that I can sweat a little bit. So it's extreme. Like, it's like the total opposite. And then, after 2 weeks, like I feel like my teeth are loose and I'm like disgusting. I'm like, oh, who could? And in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, this is probably like when I was 25. This is what my peers are doing. Like when you're 25 or 26, like they're working hard during the week and then they're like raging Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I got to catch up, which is super silly. And I think it's toned down a lot now that I'm a little bit older, but yeah, I still do the vacation part and then figure out to do the things that I typically wouldn't be doing while running a lot of mileage. So staying up late.
I was just about to say that. Fishing. I was like, one of my favorite things would be I would stay up super late and I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to get 9 hours of sleep. Who cares? I'm not training seriously. Like, that's my wild rebellion. But I also would eat a lot. I mean, I eat a lot of sugar in general, but I would eat more sugar than normal. I'd have donuts every day instead of just like once a week or once a month. And you're talking about your teeth feeling loose. Like, that resonates with me deeply, where I'm like, everything is gross. Like, my teeth are furry.
Right.
My body feels weird. It's time to stop eating like a college student and get back to work.
Totally. Yeah, so there probably has to be something in the middle that's better. This
Well,
is
I'll tell
just
you, that's post competitive life,
yeah,
right? Like you can have a beer and you can,
sustainable.
yeah, it's like you can enjoy like pleasures of life that you wouldn't probably want to do while you're like preparing for a major marathon, but because you can, you don't do it in excess. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
when you're training competitively, you're like, yeah, I mean, you still drink whiskey and I would still drink during season and everything like that. But like I would be mindful about those choices where now that I'm like post competing, it's like, oh, I can do that. And because it's not, I can only do it for 2 weeks. I got to really enjoy it all. It's like I can do it any day I want. So it's not as it's crazy how I almost feel like I eat better and like live better now that I'm not competing because it's just like, oh, I can do what I want.
Yeah, I feel like there's this idea that elite athletes are super healthy, and even in when you're in the peak and you're doing all the mileage, like I was going to go into this anyways, but like what a peak week looks like is the 120-mile weeks. It's like going to bed at 9 p.m. and waking up at 6 and making sure your everything's like super focused and serious, and there's no, it's like all the fat is trimmed, and I'm not sure that's especially healthy either. Like it's neurotic.
Right.
And like running that much mileage, I'm not sure, like that's not necessarily, like it's not the healthiest, right? Like there's consequences to that too. So I think this idea that elite athletes are super healthy is kind of maybe not totally accurate.
No, we're pushing our like it's unsustainable, right? You can't do it
Yeah.
forever. I remember when I trained for Jerry and when I trained for Wetmore, I doubled every day. With Jerry, I doubled every day but our long run day. And with Wetmore, I doubled every day but the day before my long run day.
So you
And
doubled on a long run?
yeah, but it would be really easy. Like, actually, I'm telling you, I really enjoyed this. When he first pitched it to me, I was like, Mark, you've lost your effing mind. I just ran 24 miles hard and you want me to run 20 minutes tonight? No. But he was like, just give it a try. Try it 3 weeks in a row. And it was true. I felt so much better on Monday. And so it wasn't really about the mileage, although I would write
Mhm.
2.5 more miles, but it was about just like shaking out that long run. So I didn't just sit and let it get stiff. But I really liked being in that lifestyle and like napping and sleeping. It totally changed when I had Colt, but still, it was still built around like, well, mom needs to rest. So we have to leave right now. Oh, Saturday, I don't double. Saturday's the day we're going to do stuff together. Um, and I don't regret any of it. I love that I did that. But yeah, it was not healthy. I mean, it was like it was working towards a goal, but it's totally unsustainable lifestyle.
Yeah. Did how much gym work and like extra supplementary stuff did you put in to your day? Like, is your
With
whole day running, or was it just like there's broken up,
It was
work?
broken up. Like with Salazar, I did a lot of cross training.
Mhm.
I mean, I ran twice a day, but then I also maybe my afternoon run was converted from the elliptico or the bike or the elliptical, sorry, or the Ultra G. I'm trying to think. I feel like we had like calendars we had to write in, so we had to do like stretching exercises multiple days a week, and we had to do gym I think twice a week.
Oh, smart.
With Schumacher, they had Pascal Debert, whose like whole thing was gym, and it became very. It was just like much more dialed in. It was like we would finish our easy day and then go and meet with him again. I think it was twice a week, and then when I got to Mark and Heather, they were just like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't really want to go to the gym. I want to focus on my mileage and recovering, and I'll go to the gym on my own." And I did. I went to the gym twice a week, but I just kind of did what I wanted. And I think I was older and it gave me that flexibility of like feeling like I was in control. Also, like my relationship with them was very much so, this is what gives me confidence. This doesn't. It was much more of a like partnership rather than a coach. So I did go to the gym, but it wasn't nearly as serious. I would just do like 20 to 30 minutes of my own thing and call it a day. What about you? Are you a gym rat?
Not at all. I can't lift a thing. Like I have the scrawniest arms in the
So what
world.
do? Do you just run? You have to do other stuff.
No,
No?
I just run.
You
Which
don't
is
do
part of the
core
problem.
activation or like prehab, all these fancy words that I was told throughout my career, like prehab exercises, stretching. Do you do any of that stuff?
No, in my ideal world, what I should do is eat less sugar, start there, and drink less alcohol. That would be probably both good. Although I've been pretty good the last couple of years of like dialing those
Also,
things
I
in.
have to quick interrupt. I do think that being normal like that helps you have a longer career.
Maybe debatable.
Okay.
Well, it's like what do you want out of it? Like, maybe I left time on the table by not being serious like earlier. I don't know. But I do think in order to get the most out of my current plateau or decline rather, I do think I'm we're gonna put gym in and prioritize it a lot more. And I'm really that's like my goal is I want to do it. I don't want to get big or anything. I'm not trying to get some guns. But like I think I was listening to some other podcasts and like the power when you hit 40 is like the and obviously not exactly as you hit 40, but as you age, it's like declines by 10 to 11%. So, and then like the endurance type stuff, maybe it declines by 1 to 2%. So, like by running 95 miles a week, maybe I only lose like one of the 2% there. So, we're
Mm-hmm.
good there. And then with that extra time, like really focusing on power, I think could extend or improve where I'm at a little bit. And that's going to be going to the gym and working on like
Oh my God.
explosive stuff.
We should work out together. I love the gym, Des.
Do you
I love it.
really?
I go twice a week. I have a trainer. I'm
Wow.
not training for anything, but
Yeah.
I go twice a week. I love the
What's
gym.
your routine?
I have like my own routine that like today I did some
Okay.
Cure Stoke stuff at home and I do
Okay.
that a couple days a week. I just 30 minutes or less, but I go see this guy and he challenges me so much. Like I was doing pull-ups last week and he
What?
always changes it. Yeah, well, I mean, they were assisted. This
Whatever.
looks better than it is. Um I have like fake muscles. Like when I first started working with him, all the weights
It's
he would
not
give me.
real.
No, listen, he'd give me all these weights and I go, no, 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 no. I just look like I have strong arms. They're not. I don't, they're just genetic. And he like laughed and then no, it ended up being true. I was like super weak. But I really love the gym and I go twice a week and it's for an hour. And I warm up with like stupid exercises that I hate. I wish he'd remove that for like 15 minutes. And then we do 45 minutes of real concentrated stuff. And again, I'm not in your position where I'm still trying to race fast. So this is more just like to make myself feel alive. But I really
Yeah.
like it.
No, I think that's great. That's exactly what I need. We need to figure out like a camp. You also, I feel like before the trials in 16, you had a chef. Am
Mm.
I like, was that a game changer for you? Or are you like, I wouldn't do that again? I mean, obviously, like competitive, like dialed in
I wish I
focus.
had done it sooner.
Yeah.
Because also, like, I was a mom at that point too. And so, with grocery shopping, preparing food, dealing with Colt, I feel like I was a little bogged down. And yeah, Lottie, her name is different now because she just got married, but Bilderuccia was her name then. She and I had just met. I had invited her to my retreat to teach like some really simple healthy things to make. I liked her because I get really overwhelmed with food. I feel like everyone's talking to me and they're like, you need this and this, and I'm like, I don't even know where to find that in the grocery store, like I wouldn't even know where to
Yeah.
begin to look for that. So what I liked about her is it was like stuff that I actually knew. And so we had started this relationship. She came to my retreats twice, and then I just was like, hey, would you ever stay with me for like 3 months? And I wish I would have thought of that sooner because it just made everything so simple. She cooked 5 nights a week. One night we did Chipotle, one night I cooked. And then she cooked basically during the week. And I'd just come home from my double and it would be like ready. And I didn't have to
Right.
go to the store. I mean, granted, this is like very elitist because I could afford to pay this person to do it. Um, but I don't think I could have gotten myself into the fitness I had in 2016 without her.
That is the investing in yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not super practical any other time in your life, but when you're trying to make an Olympic team and you have the means and you're like, this is my shot and I'm going to throw everything at it, like that makes all the sense in the world. What are
Yeah.
the things that you kept from that? Like, did you pick up cooking like tools? Like, recipes you love, or are you just like, now I know the basic function of what I want to see on my plate? Like,
Yeah, well, I wish I was still as healthy as I was then. I'm not as healthy anymore.
it's okay.
Like back then, I was like really vegetable heavy, and then a lot of fish. And I only ate chicken the nights that I cooked. Um, and I kept that up for a long time. But I think now I've just learned it is a lot of work to eat that healthy. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
such a wuss, but it is. It's a lot of time and prep. So there's definitely things I've maintained from her, like certain salads that she taught me how to make, making my own dressing. But for a long time, I was like making my own granola. I was like roasting nuts with flavor. I was, making pies, like frozen pie. I don't do any of that anymore. But she did teach me like one thing. Sounds so simple, but one thing that I did take away from her is she would always make a huge dinner, and then I had my lunch. Like it was just the next day. And I never thought about that before. I'm just like, well, we're two people with a kid. I'm just going to make this much. And so I still do that. But most of the time, Adam eats the leftovers. But yeah, I mean, she definitely helped me learn to embrace vegetables and salads and things like that. But I don't eat nearly as healthy as I did back then. That's for sure.
I love that. I think that's a really good idea. And we should like pick her brain. Maybe we can have her come on one time, talk
Yeah,
about
that'd be
food.
awesome. Yeah, she's still doing it. She's cooking for people. There's even another professional athlete that you race against that she cooked for. So I'm so glad I did that. And I wish I had thought of it sooner. But again, I was older. I had the means to do it. She stayed in my house. We were in a rental, but it had another bedroom where she could just stay there. So I didn't have to worry about her housing and stuff like that.
That's smart. That's really smart. I think we've covered a lot of stuff. Is there anything else that we've missed that you want to get on this show? Because
No,
I'm
what?
excited. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to know what your highest mileage week is that you've ever done.
Oh, well, it was during Destober.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
that last week, which terrible idea. If you're gonna do the calendar club, do it in February, not in the
What
leap
was the
year.
last week?
I don't know. I would have to crunch the numbers really quick, but I want to say it was like over 140,
It
150
had to be
something.
over 140.
Yeah, for sure. I don't remember. I try to erase that from my memory.
Are you a doubler? Do you like doubles?
Once I get in the routine of it, I like they're nice, it's like you get that afternoon flush and it's a good, you know, feeling to be out one more time and kind of work through whatever's going on. But when I'm not in the routine, like I like the free time. Like you're like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I have so much more free time during the day. And it's not just like the 30-minute run, it's the shower, it's like the getting ready, like all the things. So I feel like my day is so much longer without doubles. And that was something we peeled a lot off when we were trimming down to 95. Like I started planning out my week and I was like, Coach, I don't even know how to set this up to hit this low of a number. He's like, well, get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. Let's trim some of that. Like, you don't need to do 3 mile warm up, 3 mile cool down. Like that's junk. Like let's do two, 1.5, whatever. And then doubles were pretty minimal, which again, more free time was great. And then like energy levels from that, like was crazy. I'm like, oh, I have like life. I
Yeah,
have like energy to move around during the day, to hang out, like, and then you're trying not to tire yourself out by doing more crap because that's my problem. It's like, oh, well, I can go do the book tour. I have so much energy. So I
totally.
fill it with something else. But yeah, the Destober was high, and then typically I think I've done like a 125 in marathon training. That was
Yeah.
focused. Yeah.
You don't need all that mileage because you're a pure marathoner. I
Yeah.
needed it because I'm a workhorse. That's what Jerry Schumacher used to tell me.
Yeah, I'm a workhorse too. Yeah, that's the thing. Like my coach was like, "Look, you're talented enough. You don't have to do all this anymore." I'm like, "But I'm not talented. Like I've been told my whole life, I'm not talented. I don't have the speed. I don't have the talent. Like I have to like out muscle everyone." He's like, "You're just don't be dumb. Like you wouldn't be here if you didn't have some talent." Like okay,
Totally. Good.
so
I'm glad he
yeah,
told you that.
yeah, good thing to hear. Went straight to my head, and I was like, "Oh, how about 30?" Kidding. All right. Anything else? How we feeling?
I feel like this was good. Typical Des and Kara conversation that we didn't know if it would be 20 minutes, and here we are at an hour. So
yeah, this has been fun because I feel like I'm getting to know you and I'm getting comfortable around you because I can make fun of you. Like I can poke fun of you and you don't get mad. And that's like the sign, like I'll just accidentally do it. And then I'm like, oh no, I hope this person doesn't hate me. But you've laughed. So we're in a good spot.
I feel like we're becoming really good friends. So you
That's
can make
right.
fun of me as
All
long
right.
as it's not really, really mean.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just a light poke. That's my love language, Kara.
I love it. I welcome the poke.
All right.
Okay.
We might edit that.
Yeah, take that out. I welcome the friendship. And scene. Okay.
Great episode.
Great.
Thanks for hanging.